Martinez, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you.
How has the pandemic and COVID affected our perception as individuals, as society of AI? Where are we now?
Well, it's been the year of AI, if I can give it a title.
Yes.
And it's because the pandemic was detected by an AI company.
Okay.
There is a small startup, AI startup in Toronto, Canada, that specializes in detecting pandemics by analyzing social media, whatever people say that's going on in their countries. And they've been doing this thing very, very well. For example, they detected and predicted and were right when Zika moved from Brazil to the US via Florida. They predicted it. They predicted how Ebola has been. So they put together a report with their analysis, all the data that they had, their prescription, and they sent it to the World Health Organization and about 119 countries, to the ministries of health. And they said, we specialize in pandemics. We reckon that there is a SARS corona pandemic in the Wuhan area, and all governments should pay attention to this. Thanks to AI, it was discovered. Thanks to AI, we could monitor the R number, how is multiplying and passing from one person to a multiple, the famous 1.2, 1.3. Angela Merkel became a superstar of mathematics because she explained it. So, and this is also the year that the pharma companies, which had already been partnering with small AI companies around 5 to 7 years ago, were able to then develop the vaccine at complete God's speed, because never, ever a vaccine has been created in months, let alone years.
Yeah.
And it was because all of them, Moderna, Novartis, Pfizer, for 5 to 7 years, they have already been creating drug therapies using AI. So it was the perfect storm. And I have never given more conferences online to pharma companies, to governments, everybody wanting to understand how can AI help. And indeed, it's helping on a daily basis.
How do you feel the public can perceive the integration of AI into this whole thing? Or do you think we aren't as aware as we should be?
I think that I see a turning point in 2021 because 5 years ago, you remember, people used to hire me to jump on stage and say, no, the robots will not kill us. Yes. Then it was, no, the robot will not take our jobs. It began to move like that.
Absolutely.
And then finally, this year, because of all the AI year we had in 2020, I'm being requested, talk to us about the potentiality of AI.
Okay.
So now people realize that AI is a force for good. It's a tool that, you can do amazing things with it. And then every sector is asking, tell us how we can use it to get, competitive advantage or increase value, etc. Tell us how to use it. What is the potentiality of this? So we have moved from fear to now wanting to know how to use it.
And are we yet at the SME level of kind of those small and medium companies getting involved in it? And how do you think that's going to get picked up?
There is a direct correlation between AI and the level of digitalization you have as an organization. Okay. Yeah. So if you're an SME that already began to digitize your assets, your operations, your supply chain, everything that there is to do, it's easier for you to adopt AI because AI needs data in order to deliver value. AI is a tool that you say, please tell me what's going on. I have this data and this data and this data. And AI says, this is happening. And then you say, can you predict what will happen? And then it tells you. But you need data. Without data, you can't do anything. So one of the dichotomies that we have is that many SMEs want to adopt AI, but we need to start by step number 1, digitizing their business.
Do they get that, or they having to be educated in that sort of progression?
companies that have massive operations that depend on supply chain, they know. Supply chain is about data flows.
Yeah.
Companies that are consumer oriented, B2C, their marketing department is all about digital, all about growth hacking, platforms to adjust, like relevant advertising, personalized. So they already have that in their mindsets. Automation of processes. Each sector is moving towards, using AI, especially agriculture, food, retail. Of course, the giants, the automotive industry has had AI in the cars for ages. I just finished writing a book for Springer Natur, the famous scientific publisher that owns business publishers, and I've written about the how the automotive industry has transformed itself thanks to digitization and AI. And one of the things that nobody realizes when you drive a good car is that since the 80s, many of the maneuverings, the car takes over you in critical situations for your safety. So, for example, if you're at speed and you take a curve and your inertia is to brake, you know that that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to steer in the opposite direction.
Yes.
So that's AI.
Okay.
The car does not apply the brakes and steers itself.
Oh, really?
So when people say, "Oh, are you afraid about self-driving cars?" I'm like, they've been doing a lot for you. Driving
It's
for
already
ages.
there. So tell me, kind of, is there an industry out there that you're like, they've got the data in place and they should be using AI, but they're not doing it yet? Is there an industry specifically you look at, or a couple of them that you're like?
One of the sectors that we all concur that will explode in AI and would be a huge change is healthcare.
Okay.
Because healthcare is full of data.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the patient data is still analog, pieces of paper.
Right.
So in healthcare, you have two fields in which AI is delivering already amazing benefits, such as image diagnosis. When you have a CT scan, when you have an MIR, whatever is image-based, AI has now been trained to notice millimetric changes in tumors, even detect tumors where by the naked eye you look at the plaque and you see nothing, but an AI system sees it. So we reckon that in the next 5 years, image diagnosis will be done automated by AI systems.
Wow.
Your doctor will be with you and will see the results coming out, and then will design a therapy for you. But the actual, this person has a tumor, will be done by a system. So the world of healthcare will completely change in the next 10 years. And also, if certain hospitals begin to digitize their records, rather than asking you to fill out papers when you go to check up things, that means that your health data, which in some cases sensitive, will be allowed to be analyzed in order for doctors to actually know why you're ill, which right now there is no regulation. For example, we all have Fitbits, we all have the Apple Watches, and we run. Yeah. But if you ask Fitbit, "I like my data, please," they don't give it to you.
Right. Yeah.
Only when the regulator says, no, people will have the right to get their data and share it with their doctor, then these companies will be forced to give it to you.
Where are we with AI and ethics? Kind of
it's
how far?
Huge. Right now, I've been appointed to the Global Partnership for AI, the GAPE.
Yeah, congratulations.
And there is a working group specific for ethics. Okay. And I am an advisor on AI to 3 countries, UK, Spain, and Malaysia. Ethics is all about ethics. 10 years ago, when big data was the big headache for all of us,
yes,
we were talking about consensus of data. Why companies take so much data from people? What is it that they do with it? And this is where the GDPR directive was born. You know, if somebody's going to take your data and use it, they need your permission. Right. Now, it's about what they do with the data. Is it ethical or not? Is it for your best interest? Is it discriminating you? So the whole conversation and the whole concern now is about ethics. It's not that they have the data. We know they have it. It's what are they doing with it? Are they respectful of the laws that protect citizens and consumers? And we need to make them abide by these laws. Ethics is number one in the agenda.
What are you most excited about? What are you seeing, which is sitting on the edge of the seat and getting you?
I'm seeing massive transformation in the future of work, simply because we will have to reshuffle our human resources and our headcount, our human capital, and begin to put people in positions that leverage from what humans are really great at, which is creativity, thinking in abstract terms, being social, being collaborative, knowing how to work in teams, brainstorm. That's what humans do that machines cannot. And I've been for 10 years explaining this to audiences.
Yes, you have
and
indeed.
Finally, I'm so glad 2021, this has moved to being one of the agendas for regulation. And it's exciting because in 10 years, how we recruit people, how we ask them to do things, how we shuffle them from one department to the next, the organizations are bound to be very flexible. You may be hired to work in marketing because you have the skills and you have the studies, etc. But many times you will be asked to move to work a little bit on product innovation because they need you. So we're going to have a T organization, people with a very good niche tacit knowledge of something, but then very good knowledge of many other things. And the more things we add to that mix, the more creative they become and the more useful to the organization they are. So the future of work is a massive point. Ethics, future of work, big data, and SMEs adopting AI. These are the 4 pillars of what every government is working on right now on AI.
Inma Martinez, thank you so much indeed for your time. Always enjoyable conversation and fascinating insight into what's going on.
Thank you.